Judge Joe Brown.
In terms of the African American presence, we have not sufficient influence with the judiciary. They don't perceive us as being part of their community, but they perceive us as being a factor that needs to be suppressed for the well-being of the community that they believe they are part of.
Okay.
Now, when we get involved in politics, we tend to focus on the president, senator, congressman, mayor, everything but the most important positions on the ballot, assuming that there are elected positions, and those positions consist of the judiciary. See, the mayor, congressman, whatever, they can't set your child support, your alimony, your spousal support, they can't set bonds, they can't put you in jail or let you out.
Okay.
We also tend to purposely absent ourselves from jury duty. So that always causes a problem because the prosecutors tend to realize that if there is a matter that goes to trial, there will be a slanted input from a would-be jury because black people who might be of the same outlook as would-be defendants are going to be excluded from the jury. Additionally, when we do sit on the jury, we tend to be intimidated by white jurors or the system as a whole, and we don't stand up as we should. We have a lot of problems, and we are dumped on, but quite frankly, sometimes we make it easy for that to happen. See, for example, in the criminal justice system, it has morphed from a device that controls crime to one that deals principally with the control of surplus labor. See, we have a lot of myths that go around and about this country in terms of what the economy is about, and they've got this sanctified thing about free enterprise.
Yeah.
You see the Republican Party talking about tax reform and how that's supposed to boost the economy.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is tax reform very little has anything to do with boosting the economy because it remains a zero sum. In other words, the pie doesn't get bigger. But what happens when you have a tax reform thing? You redefine who gets benefit of the money, not how much money is made by the system as a whole. So our system has found its productivity rather stagnated, but thanks to Ronald Reagan and moving up to the present, we have tax plans that are overwhelmingly advantageous to the people at the very top and very regressive as to the people as you extend down below them. The Democratic Party has taken little opportunity to get involved with the tax situation so that it can be equaled up. Neither party has done much of anything to bring about a situation where there are more jobs available, where education becomes more available, training becomes more vocational, or apt to reduce some job situation that you can take advantage of. We're not dealing with the heavy sciences, engineering, mathematics, and technological things, so we're falling behind on the world's scene, and that's causing internal pressure. So you're seeing it manifest in two different ways. One of them is when you get stuff like in Charlottesville, where the young whites want a scapegoat to explain why what they perceive to be their system is not working for them. And the other thing is, as a realistic response to this, though it is not a good one, is that we use the criminal justice system to control surplus labor rather than control crime. See, if you think of labor as a commodity like wheat, corn, cotton, soy, beef, pork, poultry, you can get the idea. When there is a glut in a commodity, the price of that commodity drops. The price of this commodity is the working wage for the ordinary worker, and when that happens, you you get timothy buying 200 pounds of ammonium nitrate, America's most common fertilizer, sensitizing it with dirty engine oil, and they have a bomb that is more powerful pound for pound than dynamite. So they want to keep that down in social unrest from what they perceive to be the important majority. So just as with a commodity, there are three things that happen. You cut back production, subsidize the producer, and store the surplus. The surplus is put in a jail cell instead of a grain silo. The subsidy is a welfare check, and the welfare check goes to the women rather than to the men, so it encourages the development of dysfunctional matriarchies in the inner city. And the cutting back of production deals with dropping out, banging out, drugging out. Women get knocked up too early, too often. Too many female heads of households that cannot put man training in the boys so that they become productive and control their own communities. Yeah. We have that deficit. We have a lack of a sense that goes along with proper manhood, that your community needs to be an ordered one. And the police are relatively invited in to maintain some kind of public order. Next thing is that when you develop these inappropriate attitudes and outlooks, you get that first felony, and then you become very difficult to employ. And when they put you in jail, you're good for business. Not just for the prison industry that's becoming very privatized, but because you cause ordinary people to be freaked out over criminal activity, so they pay more attention to being safe than they do to their economic circumstances. And economic things are very complex, and the news media does not do an adequate job of reporting them, and they tend to deal with this situation where CNN, Fox, etc. have a 24/7 format. Yeah. So what happens is news becomes an entertainment where its connection to reality is simply that of reality becomes the basis for short-scale historical fiction. In other words, it's made up for the most part, and it is slanted toward what is likely to bring in ratings. News used to be a public service function where there was no concern for ratings. There was only a concern for being as reliable as you could. And if there was a new development that merited it, they would interrupt regular programming. Now you've got 24/7. You got to depend upon sponsors to maintain your economic situation. So you try to make it an entertainment, and accuracy goes the hell out of the window, and the people that you have in front of the screen are actors more so than reporters. Then there's this truth that we have to understand as a people that operates badly against us. Caesar said one of them 2,000 years ago. He said the mob won't care what you do if you feed them and entertain them, give them bread and circuses. And we have a weight problem now because we got lots of food and we've got lots of entertainment. Everybody can tell you what their favorite basketball player or football player is doing, but they can't tell you anything that's going on with their rights or the law or anything like that. Yeah. And then there's Machiavelli. He came up with a thing toting up to the aristocracy in Italy. He said the oppressed will submit willingly to their own oppression. They'll help you oppress them if you give them a chance, howsoever slight, to become part of the oppressing class. And see, that's your Republican rank and file. They'll submit to the worst right-wing exploitation because they think that 2 weeks from now they're going to win the lottery and they'll become filthy rich, which isn't going to happen. They'll walk around with 4 teeth missing out of the front of their mouth, one eye drooping down and can hardly walk and in poor health, and then fight any kind of adequate provisions of medical services because they bought into the myth of creeping socialism. Yeah. And that brings us to the next point. There's a guy named Joseph Goebbels, who was minister of propaganda for the Nazis. He said, tell a lie one time, it's a lie times, it becomes the truth. You can get anyone to believe. If you tell a lie long enough and loud enough, you can get anyone to believe. And the news media comes up on a principle I put up, which I just touched on, which is the media is not about information, it's about entertainment. So the media gives you all sorts of false principles without giving you an analysis of what they're about, and people go for it. Main problem on that scale is that we have nothing that's going to convert the average worker into a productive somebody with a fair share of what comes out of enhanced industrial technology and computerization. He's getting left by the wayside, and he's getting pissed off and angry as hell. And the white ones are trying to dump on us like they've always done, but it's just more knowledgeable to the average person now because the news wants to sensationalize it so people have cell phones with video functions and people see it. And then you get to Lincoln, what do you say? You can fool most of the people most of the time, some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all the people all of the time. It's just what with the day being what it is. If it's not sensational, nobody pays attention to it. So what you get is people don't have a bloody doggone clue, and they'll fall for any doggone thing that's put out there to them. The myth about private enterprise being all sacred and the government needing to stay out of everybody's business and everybody's going to hell. Except the very well-to-do.
Yeah.
So we have a real bad mess, and it comes down to another problem. Anytime you get a group of people, you have a massive amount, depending upon the size of the group, you have an amount of undisplaced interpersonal hostility and aggression. It happens in families, it happens in clubs, it happens in societies. And the bigger it is, the more undisplaced hostility and aggression you have. So when you've got something like France or Germany or Russia, you know, they come up with outside boogeymen. You know, the dirty Frenchman, the dirty Hun, or the Chinese came up with paper imperialistic tiger, and you demonize the opposition so your home front people feel like they're on a team and they go rah, rah, rah. It's all about us, and they cheer and they join into the joint effort.
Yeah.
Well, America has an interesting situation that we really get caught behind, and that is that we stand out. We are readily identifiable, and due to our circumstances, both historically considered and also considering some of the things that we do to ourselves, we become ideal scapegoats to blame. One funny black folk, everything would be all right. These Black Lives Matter people, they're the ones that are causing all of this inner city unrest. It's these black people on welfare, or they're getting a break that we aren't getting, blah, 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 blah. So you can say rah, 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 them, those, and us. And we unfortunately provide great scapegoats for this country, so when it gets stressed out like it is now, with a bad job environment, a bad economic environment, we become well-suited to zero in on as somebody to blame, and even if they don't directly do something to us, they can vicariously scapegoat us. So we've got a big problem today, and then we lost ignorance on ourselves. We've got this thing now where the home does not define itself as mom and dad. It's mama, grandmama, aunts, dysfunctional girlfriends, and then running around taking booty shots in the mirror trying to get laid, and then make 200 pounds more than they're supposed to weigh, and then not to die of a heart attack at 46, 47 years old, and they're mad at everybody, and they don't like the sons because the sons are boy and they hate men, you know, so, and that brings us to another thing, this bit with the feminists and the lesbian faction combined with LGBT, they don't like straight men, and they hate black men worst of all. So Hollywood is controlled by this factor, and everything they put out is anti-man. You get the situation where for 100 years, boys in America, white and black, have looked to the movies to define the latest iteration of manhood. And now you look at this stuff and it makes you believe that there are more gays per square inch than there are straight people. I mean, gays have an absolute right to do what they want to do. That's their business. But the bottom line is the propaganda engine has begun to make it a dysfunctional matter for straight people. And after all, we're the ones that breed, for the most part.
I was gonna say,
back to this matriarchy in the inner city. There needs to be some correction made to that.
I was gonna say, how do you figure? Ken, chime in on this. What you were telling me earlier before we got on, Mr. Brown, about the Weinstein.
Okay, first of all, I agree with everything that the judge was saying. Just to add my little 2 cents, I would just want to say that 2 things come to mind. First, I was watching a movie yesterday. It was with Denzel Washington. He played a lawyer by the name of Roman Israel. I found it interesting that the lawyer name would be Roman Israel. That's like the Catholics and the Jews. You know what I'm saying? But that was his name, Roman Israel. Not that I got anything against the Catholic and the Jews. It was like a black man named Roman Israel was just kind of strange to me. But the lawyer, he ended up working for, Denzel worked for the firm, and the firm was kind of controlled by this black man. And his name was, I believe, Mr. Jackson. But it was a white guy who was financing the firm, and that's how the firm was surviving. So the black guy, I think he had a stroke and he got very sick. And then Denzel Washington character, Roman Israel, came into question whether he would take over the firm or what have you. But the primary purpose of his character was he had devised a motion. He wanted to file a motion with the court. He wanted to take the court to task on the sentencing. He was saying that most of the young African-American men and young white poor men that goes through the court system, almost 100% of them end up taking plea bargains. And he was saying because the district attorney raised the bar so high in terms of sentencing and threatened the person who commits the crime with such a high sentence, that almost invariably the convict or the criminal or the one who's alleged criminal, he ended up taking a plea bargain. So their purpose was they wanted to change that system. And then another thing came to me was I was watching the congressional hearing today with the assistant attorney, and one of the black members of the Congressional Black Congress, a female, a black congresswoman, she asked I believe his name Reinstein, about the sentencing and why are they changing some laws that Obama and Holder had came up with to kind of lower the sentencing, and they said that the sentencing was being too harsh and that individuals should not be convicted to the full extent of the law because the law was overreaching. And I think that it all boils down to, as I always say, systemic racism. Because in the movie where Denzel played Roman Israel, the district attorney emphatically said, we have an almost 100% conviction rate. That was the purpose of Denzel Washington when he wanted to petition the court. But look, the reason why these people are pleading guilty is because the sentencing that you are imposing on them initially, I'm looking at me, and I'm saying basically what I see is systemic racism, but it's criminal for profit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these criminal justice system is profiting, and because of that, there's no way that they actively and intelligently make real serious judgment. I mean, when I was coming up, when I was getting in trouble back in the day, all we used to hear was rehabilitation. Now all you hear is lock them up, and throw the key away. That they're irredeemable. You know what I'm saying? Can't redeem them. So I think that it got a lot to do with profit. It got a lot of systemic racism. I think it got a lot to do with white supremacy. I think it's got a lot to do with people just have to have somebody that's below them. Some people worse amigo is their ego. These people ego is so that they will. It just kills them to know that another individual, particularly African American. And I was listening to the judge talk about earlier how when we go out to vote and we go to the voting polls that we got a right to we got an option to vote for also judges and other officials and so on and so forth. And I think that because we don't understand that, and because that is where the real law lies, as the judge was saying, I think that a lot of racism is even on the with the lawyers, and the criminal justice system.
I agree with you, young brother, but let me add some context to that. It's not how much money they make off of you when they lock you up. That's small. What their benefit is that if they lock you up, they don't have to worry about employing you. And see, employment is the key. All of these white guys who would play Timothy McVeigh or came out in Charlottesville, they don't want to get them too pissed off. So the way to get them pissed off is to make them unemployed. Now, if they've locked us up, we're not in the job market. And then see, the positions that nobody wants but still need to be filled, you get the illegal immigrants. They fill those positions. So it works out as a systemic thing without the system being concerned about the niceties. Now, let me say this. Yes, all of that's true about they give us stiffer offers, but I tried as a defense lawyer 42 murder cases where they wanted the death penalty. I don't have a single client on death row. Been years, but none of mine wound up on death row. I even got the youngest person in the world on death row off. That was a hell of a trial. It was in Arkansas in a small county. They excluded every black on there. I raised hell. People thought they were going to lynch me, and other black lawyers were trying to get me to back off because it was making things too dangerous. I didn't, but I got a state of execution on this kid eventually. 27 minutes before they were going to execute him, the Arkansas Supreme Court called in and stayed it, and then Governor Bill Clinton called in and stayed the execution, and I got the Arkansas Supreme Court to unanimously set his conviction aside. But you see, the bottom line was he wasn't like some of the clients I had where I made them to go to trial. And I know that, they talk about what they're going to do, and I know what that movie did, but some of that movie is just myth. See, let me just fast forward as a judge. Okay. I'm a criminal court judge. I tried to use my power for social engineering to correct problems and impose man training on some of these people. The recidivism rate in my courtroom was 18%. The statewide average was 80%. But we had motions to suppress confessions. So I'm looking at this guy that purports to be an OG, real rough gangster, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this tape. He got snot running out his nose, crying up a river, just pumped all out, and then you hear him, man, like he did me wrong, man. No, fool, you just didn't have a manhood to face down when you got to running into these white folks. You punked out. If you kept your mouth shut, they wouldn't have had a case on you, fool. Now, the truth of the matter is, if you take the penitentiary system, and this is consistent, 97+% of the people that are in the American penitentiary system pled guilty. Less than 3% got found guilty. Out of that 97%, 85 to 89% of them confessed. And most of the time, it's not like you see on TV. If the fool hadn't confessed, they wouldn't have had a case on it. I've had first-degree murder cases where they've got 6 people on trial for murder. It's a contract hit. The Colombians took out on somebody, and the person that made the arrangements, everybody knows, but they can't touch it. Because the only evidence they've got is the uncorroborated testimony of an accomplice, which you can't use in an American trial. And if he kept his mouth shut, he just said, go to hell. I want my damn life. I ain't crap to say to you. And everybody else trying to get scared. Why did you I got scared. Well, this guy didn't. He's walking. You sitting up doing a life sentence in the penitentiary. So one of the things we got to deal with is manhood. Sometimes you got to be tough and like you had a ball to take it to bat. I didn't want to, I got scared, man. I didn't want to have no public defender, man. No, look, there was a public defender in my courtroom, and in 10 years, he had 64 jury trials on serious felonies. He had 61 not guilty verdicts. He had a first-degree murder case that had a mistrial that became one of those 61 not guilty verdicts. He had 2 guilty verdicts where the defendant got 1129 time served, and the sentence otherwise was a minimum of 10 years. So that was the best trial record in this state, and that was a public defender.
Yeah.
So I've seen people get this brother who was their public defender. I don't want no PD. I want to hire a private lawyer. So they come walking in the courtroom or having the lawyer walk in. This guy's been out of law school 5 years. He's never tried a case. Couldn't if he wanted to. But he's got good PR and a good advertising program, so he walks in with all of these clients, and the fool doesn't know crap. He wants to plead everybody out, but they had the best trial lawyer in the state for free. They didn't want it. But you see, one of the things we've got to do is get some balls and take it through. Try the damn case. But you see, a lot of times too, Mama, they just putting a case on me. They picking on me. They ain't got no case on me. And then you listening to this dude you may represent. What the hell you mean? They got 7 eyewitnesses on your dumb ass. And 3 of them gave them your mama's address. They know who you are. One of them, see, man, he lying. He didn't see me. I wasn't there. What do you mean he didn't see you? How you know he did? Because, see, man, I was behind the dumpster, man, in the shadow. That fool was smoking a cigarette over by the lamppost. He know he didn't see me. I want you to work there. Yeah, well, I wasn't, see, because he lying. He didn't see me. I know he did, because I saw what you were there. Yeah, but that ain't the same thing. If he got the lie to say I was there, I wasn't home, man. Come on. And then, see, you got other folks that try to front off. Yeah, man, my lawyer and I bought this case, man. They caught me with 5 kilos, man, but we paid off the judge, man, and the prosecution. The fool of lying, they caught him with a roach in the ashtray. Yeah, I beat the case for him on a technicality, but he's lying, telling everybody he got busted with some kilos. See, so, I mean, we got all kinds of games we run. And then your mama sitting up there, Judge, could you please reduce the bond on my son? He been good for me. Well, what do you mean good? Well, every time I'm short on the rent, he be getting the rent together. Well, look, he never had a job. Well, that's my job, but he always get the money I need, and he dropped out of the 6th grade. How the devil do you suppose he gets this money? Remember, I don't know. The law working mysterious ways. Well, that's why this fool got 37 felonies at 19 years old. Some of them are bogus cases, but, you know, some of them he did wrong.
Too cool to count 24/7.